Amy Cassandra Martinez. Welcome to Sideshow Con. Woo, woo, woo. Today we are joined by Sideshow Art Director Matt Black. Hi, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey there. Thank you for having me.
All right. So first, I want to know, when did you decide to get into this field? When did you decide you wanted to be an artist?
Oh no. I don't know if it was really a decision. I think it just kind of happened. It was a slow evolution. I mean, I've always been changing my environment, modifying toys, trying to make myself interesting things out of what I had. And I think it just kind of evolved over time. I don't know if it was really a conscious decision.
It's like you kind of just slipped into it. It was meant to be.
Kind of. I mean, I've always been inspired by the movies I've seen and then just wanting to have those things. So, I think the first thing I remember making is I turned an old G.I. Joe doll into the Rocketeer with like tin foil and stuff like that. And then I guess that's kind of sculpting in a way, but, creative. Just trying to have the stuff I wanted, I guess, is the way I kind of fell into it.
So thinking about like when you officially started making money, what was your first paid gig in this field?
Oh my God. It's pretty embarrassing, but everybody's got to start somewhere. I think my first official paid professional job as an artist was sculpting a Scooby-Doo fishing pole. It was a fishing pole with like low relief Scooby-Doo characters all over it.
See, why is that embarrassing? That's so cool.
Well,
yeah, that's amazing.
I thought it was cool at the time, but I've gone on to make stuff that's a little bit more interesting than fishing poles. But you gotta make some money. You gotta eat. So you take what jobs are out there.
Exactly, and you have to start somewhere. Now, thinking of everything that you've created, which one proved to be the most challenging and why?
I think every project has its own unique challenges, but I think probably the most recent example would be the Robin premium format that we worked on. And it was just a little bit more challenging because of the complexity of the pose. We're trying to get this like really energetic leaping parkour pose, but also have a really solid center of gravity. So, all the weight had to be centered over his arm, through his elbow, down to his wrist, and then through the barrel. So it was really kind of unique problem solving. Normally when we're approaching a statue, one of us or the artist will try to get into the pose and have somebody photograph them, do some pose studies so you can really feel what's going on. But I wasn't about to try to leap over a barrel and injure myself because I'm an old man. So it would have been it would have been pretty difficult to try to feel what was going on. So, we had to troubleshoot it to some degree. It was just a really complex dynamic pose with a lot of, we have to engineer for production and all that stuff. So a lot of engineering concerns. So problem solving.
So when you're busy problem solving, is there certain artists that you listen to? Like, do you listen to music while you work, or do you take little dance breaks? What do you do to relieve that stress?
I have a lot of different techniques. I try to layer like several different layers of distraction on top of my sculpting so that my hands can just do what they do, or I become too conscious of trying to sculpt. So I listen to a lot of books on tape. I listen to a lot of music. Most recently, because of the Jedi Fallen Order video game, I've been listening to that band that did the soundtrack, The Who, H-U, and their Tibetan metal band. It's just such bizarre music. It kind of like sort of meditative, rhythmic drumming and chanting. Just sort of a bizarre music that I've been playing a lot lately to kind of get into this headspace, distract myself from what I'm actually engaging in a little bit to some degree.
Now, I know that you mentioned, you've been inspired by so many things. What are a few of those things that really maybe like catapulted you into this career, or that continue to inspire you daily?
How much time do we have?
All the time.
The earliest inspiration was, things like Star Wars or Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, Jim Henson. I always loved seeing the behind the scenes when they had the behind the scenes TV special for like Willow or Return of the Jedi, just seeing the people actually making the creatures and the thought process that went into them and where they drew their inspiration. And then as a little kid, you're like, oh my God, I really want to have one of those. So you start playing with Play-Doh or drawing pictures and gluing stuff together. So that always kind of shaped my artistic abilities or influenced me artistically. But nowadays it's all over the place. Everything's kind of, I'm inspired by everything, books I'm listening to, or, ideas I hear about. And, of course, the movies that are still around are just wildly inspirational. Seeing creature designs or suit designs, I was just trying to take little mental notes like, oh, that's so great. I got to remember that and find ways to incorporate that kind of technique or those shapes or those color palettes, those ideas. Obviously,
Jeez,
Star Wars is still inspirational.
Yeah. Now, what advice would you give people that are starting out in this field? Where, I mean, even heck, right now we're all in quarantine. Like, what advice would you give them?
If you want to be a commercial artist, the thing I always tell everybody is, don't fall in love with your art, because the art is not for you. I mean, you need to be able to sculpt something, create something, design it, and then throw it in the trash. Just destroy it. Just break yourself free from being in love with what you're doing, because what you need to focus on is the process. Fall in love with the process of creation, because that's the part you get to keep. And as a commercial artist, we just make art to, it's for everybody else. It's not for us. So, and in the course of creating it, there's a lot of compromise, so you might fall in love with an element and it might not work for production or for any other part of the process, or, there might be certain things about the character you have to stay more true to. So you might have to just throw that element away or revise it so many times. So that as long as you're in love with the process itself, just in the enjoyment of creation, then you'll never be unhappy in the industry. But if you're emotionally invested in this piece you've spent a month on, and for whatever reason it's just not going to work and you have to start over, then you're going to be crushed. So just love what you're doing, love what you make, love your art. But if you're really invested in just creation itself and the process and technique and growing as an artist, then you'll always be fulfilled every time.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I feel like that's one, it's like very therapeutic to hear. It's like, yes, you create something and it's okay to like love it, but it's okay to let it go and don't get too attached to it. How do you keep your art fresh with that?
Well, I've been doing this for 21 years, so I've had my heart broken a million times when somebody comes in and says, start over. So, you just have to focus on what you love about the job and really put that love into your art. Just put that into the creation itself. I mean, who else gets to sit around creating toys and products and art, amazing statues? So I'm passionate about it. I enjoy getting up every day and going to work and making fun stuff.
And honestly, like, thank you for that advice. I think that's helpful for anyone in a creative field. And you can honestly see your passion, just, you talking about it and how you got started. And it's just, I don't know, it was meant to be. So thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today.
Certainly.
And thank you guys for watching at home. Make sure to stay tuned for much more from Sideshow Con. And don't forget to let your geek side show.